When I was a kid, my folks put me in dance class because I was pigeon-toed. And the pediatrician suggested that dance class would help turn out my feet. It may have helped, I think it did. But really what happened was that I learned that I loved performing. Ballet was never my strong suit. But I loved learning dance routines set to music, and I especially loved being in front of people. I had the privilege to continue dance class for many years. Tap dance I especially loved, and still like to watch good tap dancers. My brother was the visual artist. He had a facility for drawing, and he cultivated that through school, classes, and maybe a few private lessons. I don't know that it felt like I missed a lot in not taking art classes. In my mind, it was just a division of interest. He liked this and was good at it. I liked this and was good at it. But the story got stuck in my head, not because somebody told me, but somehow got stuck in my head that I was not good at art. How many of you have a story stuck in your head for whatever reason? Maybe somebody told you that you are not good at art. How many have a story that you're not good at singing? Oh, more of those hands. Yeah. Well, we get told these stories or we collect them in some way that we're not good at something. Now, I'm going to switch scenes just a little bit. If you're like me and you hear something important and life-changing on the radio, you remember exactly where you were when you heard it, right? I was driving along 28th Avenue in Minneapolis, not very far from home, when I heard an interview with neuroscientist and play researcher Stuart Brown. Dr. Brown talked about the necessity of play, not just for children, but for adults. By this time, I had left dance and the theater behind, and I didn't have much play in my life. But Dr. Brown says that it's really important, and he describes it this way. It's purposeless, which is not to say it's trivial. It's consuming, as in we lose ourselves in it, and it's fun. Brown suggests that nothing lights up the brain like play. There's this three-dimensional thing happening in our brains. The play lights up the cerebellum. It puts lots of impulses into the frontal lobe, the executive portion. It helps with contextual memory. It helps with problem solving and more. What all play has in common, Brown says, is that it offers a sense of engagement and pleasure, takes the player out of a sense of time and place, and the experience of doing it is more important than the outcome. Okay, so we've got that I used to do dance and performance, and I wasn't very good at drawing. We've got a sense of play. Now, let's move up to 2016. Some of you remember 2016, don't you? It was the first administration of the current occupant of the White House. It was a bad time. But this service, it turns out, is a little evergreen. And I would wake up in the morning, like many of you maybe do, and pick up my phone and see what shoe had dropped. And I decided I had to have a buffer in between waking up and seeing the bad news of the day. That is still very true. It's just not good for me to wake up and check my phone, and it's a challenge not to do it. So I decided to take Dr. Brown up on what he suggested and learn to play, and I wanted to play in visual art. I decided I wanted to play in paint and paper and glue, a process called art journaling. I had seen throughout the pandemic a lot of social media and YouTube videos about art journaling, and you know on YouTube you can learn how to do anything. And so I looked up how do you do art journaling and play. And there's a great online teacher, her name is Carolyn Doobie, and she starts every one of her videos with, "What's the play for today?" And I just love that. There was no pressure to make something beautiful or interesting or for anybody to see. The whole invitation was just to play. And so following her tutelage, I made a couple of junk journals out of cardboard and old greeting cards and mailing envelopes and bits and bobs, anything there was. It was so much fun to get messy, to have this time, always with a little instrumental music, to let my mind wander and roam and come out with something that didn't exist an hour before. It was purposeless, but it was not trivial. The end product didn't matter to anyone, sometimes not even to me. And it was consuming. I could get completely lost in that process. It was fun. And look what happens if I try this or try this. And it was easier to get through those horrible days immediately after the election of 2016 and all of the last 10 years and return to this touch point again and again. I don't do it every day, and my days are better when I do. So, in January of 2022, I was at a UU Ministers Conference retreat when I encountered the Jewish Studio Project. It was an organization out in the Bay Area which offered training in creative exploration as a spiritual practice coming out of Jewish teaching. And so for 18 months, from 2022 to 24, I was engaged with a training program with the Jewish Studio Project. I was the only non-Jew in the group. They were delightfully patient and welcoming of my many, many questions. And I became a certified facilitator with them. There were about 20 of us from all over the United States and some from other countries. And it was really quite remarkable to engage in this process. It was different than what we do with our Creativity Matters work, where we go home with a series of questions and then come back and share our responses. In the Jewish Studio process, we are together as we co-create, many times online, but we are co-creating parallel play side by side. And so we've not had time to perfect it. We read some text and then we respond to it by writing and also by making art with simple materials. And we don't judge each other. Nobody says, oh, that's really beautiful. Oh, look what you did. Because it is for us to be open to what processed happened, no judgment. There are 5 key components of this Jewish teaching that ground the program, and they've become spiritual touchstones for me in and out of the studio. Now, I'm going to talk some about God here, and it's helpful to remember this kind of frame that I gave around God in the sermon a few weeks ago. This is from the Reverend Dr. Andrea Johnson. She talks about God is the restless, ambiguous, interconnected web of being, the ground of all reality. God as the restless, ambiguous, interconnected web of being, the ground of all reality. Okay? So here are these 5 points. I'll go through these without spending too much time on them. The first one is that we are all created creative. We are created creative. God is the creative force of the universe, and human beings are made in the divine image, and therefore we are created as creators. Each and every one of us is endowed with creative capacity simply by being human. Accessing and activating our creativity is how we partner in the ongoing work of creation. The second one is that creation comes from chaos and void. Remember, we're working with Jewish text here. And remember, in Genesis, it says that God creates the universe, right? I had this image that God created out of silence, out of nothingness. But in fact, the scripture says that God creates out of chaos and void. And for me, what this means is that I needn't wait until the time is right and all things are orderly in order to begin. I do not have to wait until the kitchen table is perfectly clean and all of the emails are sent and all of the tallies and all of the laundry and all of the everything. I can create out of whatever chaos there is. We do not have to wait until the time is right. God created, and therefore we create out of chaos and void. God is process. Creation is process. So you'll remember when Moses meets God in the form of the burning bush, right? We're now in close to the Exodus story. And Moses asks God how he should identify God to the people. And in this one-on-one conversation with the burning bush, God answers, Eyeh Asher Eyeh. I shall be what I shall be. I shall be what I shall be. Some of us learned this in traditional Sunday schools as I am what I am. But it really is what I shall be what I shall be. God self-identifies not as a person or a place, but as a process. God is process. God is in process. And together with the creative spirit, we transform that which is into that which shall be. Creativity is always becoming. It's always about the process. Now, art is often about the finished process, something beautifully well rehearsed and given to us, something that's been put together in a creative way and presented. Art is often about what is the final process, but creativity is the messy stuff that gets there. Always in process. We are called to journey into the unknown. This is the fourth one. We are called to journey into the unknown. Lord, Lord, aren't we in some unknown times right now? We don't know what's going to happen, and we are fearful. I am fearful for what will be. But creative process is a vital tool for our journey, and working with the unknown of what emerges on our canvas or in our garden or in the stew helps us be curious. What happens if I place the stitch this way instead of the other way? What happens if I use this spice or flavor profile rather than the one I've always done? It's unknown. It might work. It might be really peculiar. By venturing into the unknown, we cultivate curiosity. We allow ourselves to be surprised, and we practice not having to know everything all the time. Having to know the right answer all the time is exhausting. I say, let's give it up. This last one of this process, these 5 of the process, is the one that's most personal to me. It is that we continually ask, what else could this be? In the Jewish studio process, they return to Torah again and again, and Torah is explained as the Torah of creativity, that sort of alignment of a worldview. And she says, Dr. Allen says, just as Torah is complex and multi-layered, each of us contains multitudes. How might our life work, our relationships, our art, our spirituality change as we continue to ask ourselves, what else could this be? And here's why this matters so deeply to me. In 2023, I had been at the congregation where I was for about 8 years. I was beginning to feel like I had done the work that I meant to do there. My daughter had graduated from college, and I was feeling a little stale in my ministry, and I was deeply engaged in this work. And this question, what else could this be, began to poke at me. And I realized what it was asking was, what else could this ministry be? What else could this be? How else could I imagine it? What if I moved to a different ministry? What might I want that to look like? And the minute that I asked it, an answer came that I had no idea was in my mind. I want to move to a more conservative state and work on reproductive justice and gender issues. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't even know what it meant. I didn't have to know all the things. I was inviting creativity. Spirit was inviting me into a journey into the unknown. But asking that question, what else could this be, brought me to this moment and this pulpit right here. And to you, and you to me, and us together to see what else could we be? What can we nurture here that is unknown yet in this moment of chaos? What creativity can we find in our own spiritual lives and with each other to be present in this beautiful and broken world? I didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't know what would happen. But I know that being around people who think deeply around spiritual practice and creativity leads us into places that we couldn't know before we went. Anything that we do in congregational life, when we work creatively and with trust and with curiosity and with courage and playfulness together, unexpected things will happen. Creativity as a spiritual practice is a way for us to partner with the holy, the divine, God, with creativity, and develop the traits that help us stay in ongoing partnership. It requires of us to be open, willingness to venture into the unknown, the ability to be present in the moment, to be playful with our intuition, and allowing us to go where it leads us with deep humility in knowing that nothing we bring into the world is ours alone. May it be so, and blessed be.